Well, good evening and welcome to About the Valley, and going right into the summertime this year. I have with me tonight from Professional Hearing, Peter Lee and Alex Lee, father and son team, who run Professional Hearing over in Westboro, Massachusetts, 33 Lyman Street, and they are
Hearing instrument specialist.
hearing instrument specialists. Okay, I have trouble on titles, but what you do is you can do hearing tests.
Yes. We have a private practice. It's a small family-owned private practice in Westboro, and we test and evaluate hearing, and then we help people restore and rehabilitate the hearing through the use of amplification or hearing aids.
And the reason I had them on is I just went through this series of tests and trying out hearing aids. I didn't realize that I do have some hearing impairment, but not really bad. It doesn't mean in the future I won't be worse,
Right.
because everything comes in time.
Yes.
But my point is that you'd be amazed how many of you out there might have a problem and you don't even realize it.
Yes.
That's true. I mean, you get people all the time that never realize that they had a problem.
Yeah, usually a person, when they find out that they have a problem, they're the last person to realize it. It's everyone else around them that realizes that that person might have a problem first.
And finally convinces them to go and have it checked out.
Yeah, usually maybe a spouse or a friend will say, hey, man, you really need to get your hearing checked. And so they'll come in and we'll check their hearing.
Well, one thing we talked about was the fact that people go for a checkup all the time with the doctor on a regular basis.
Sure.
They see their dentist they tell you every 6 months.
Sure.
And you get your eyes examined
Every year.
every year. Not everybody, but a good majority of people, especially when you get older because you develop cataracts and
You have a lot of other things that
other
happen.
things can happen. If you're diabetic, you really need to get your eyes checked on a regular basis. So what about your ears? I mean, that's in one of your senses.
Yeah, we've done a poor job at educating people to get their hearing checked. We should be doing a better job. So the message, if you're out there listening, is to get your hearing checked, because you might even have a problem, but you wouldn't even know it. Because hearing loss is often defined as unable to hear soft speech.
Soft
Right.
sounds.
Soft sounds. Okay, so loud sounds, everybody hears it, but it's only when it's soft, that's when it gives you the most difficulty. And you miss a word here or there, and your brain tries to fill it in out of context.
Yeah, I did that. There was a commercial done like that where the person was misunderstanding, and I forget how it goes now, but
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I think I remember that, yeah.
yes. But now the thing is too, you can also have a hearing problem when you don't think you have one by not hearing in a crowded room.
Yes. Background noise in crowds are particularly difficult, because that background noise competes with the signal that you're trying to hear.
Yes.
And that's the major difference in being able to hear in background noise. So even people with normal hearing have difficulty there, but if you have a hearing problem, it's
It's
2, 3, 4,
amplified,
5 times, yeah, it's magnified.
magnified over, yes.
Right, right. So almost everybody hears, but they don't always understand, and that's the problem. Because when you don't understand, then it's hard to communicate.
Now, hearing loss can lead to other things as well, right?
Yes, yes. I mean, research shows that some heart disease and diabetes
Those all have links with
links.
hearing loss.
They link with hearing loss. There's no causality other than people that have hearing loss have these conditions. People that have these conditions have hearing loss.
But what about with early dementia or early Alzheimer's?
Okay, so there's been a study done by the Johns Hopkins Institute, and they studied a long time period, like 10 years. So in Baltimore, they have the Center for Aging, just as in Framingham, they have the Center for Heart Disease. And
Yes.
so people go into Baltimore from age 40 to like 85, and once every 3 years they go there and they do an entire physical for like 3 days. And they have the information and the data of people historically, and they went and tracked the the people that had hearing problems and didn't correct them, and they found that if you had a hearing problem and you didn't correct it, you would travel down a path toward early dementia or Alzheimer's about 30 to 40 to 45% faster than people with normal hearing.
Wow, yes, now that's really something right there, because I think people in my age group now, we're, the boomers, we're concerned about it because we see it around us. We're seeing our parents, if they're still alive, developing dementia, Alzheimer's. We're seeing, it seems almost like it's epidemic.
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 Yeah, epidemic. Yeah.
I have trouble speaking sometimes.
Yeah.
No, but it almost seems like that in some cases, because you see so many people coming down with it now.
Mm.
And there's a good point. If they might have got a hearing check and then found out, yeah, you need hearing aids, and we probably would have corrected or saved them from going to that point.
Yes. In fact, I spoke to the researcher when this study first came out, and I asked him what could be the cause, and he said that wasn't the purpose of the study, but he said if you force me to articulate it, what happens when you're not hearing well, the brain reallocates resources to help you hear, and the two places where they take those resources away is short-term memory and cognitive skills.
Oh,
and so
wow.
those are the places where you begin to see mild and early dementia. Short-term
Yeah.
memory and cognitive skills.
It's amazing what we're learning about how the brain works and how it works with the senses.
Yeah, and I want to say that this study has been repeated 2 more times. This is 2011, now it's 2008. It's repeated 2 more times, once overseas in the UK and another time in the United States in a separate location. When this first came out, it was a little bit controversial because it kind of scared people.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's really been validated, and there hardly is a geriatric doctor that doesn't believe that there's a cause and link between hearing loss and early mild dementia.
Well, I got a physical today, and I talked to my doctor. I'm 70 years old, and I says, I feel I look and act a lot younger than my father or my grandfather did at 70. And he says, yes, that's true. He said the boomers don't tend to act like they're older. But I think a good part of that is the fact that we've been more conscious about our health care all our lives now than it happened back then. I think people don't realize it, but healthcare is more involved today than it ever was.
Yeah.
Yes.
People are taking better care of themselves.
Yes.
More exercise, less smoking, eating healthier, and taking care of your hearing is really integral.
Right, so I'm saying, it wouldn't be a bad idea to make it a regular checkup.
It wouldn't be a bad idea at all. You just be, anytime you find out that you have a medical condition, the sooner you find out about it, the sooner you treat it, the better off you're going to be.
Yes.
The people that wait and wait and wait, the longer you wait, the more difficult it is to correct it.
And let's face it, I mean, hearing is extremely important.
Unfortunately, too many people take it for granted.
Well, because it just seems a normal thing. You're born and you hear from day one if you haven't got a problem with your hearing.
Mm.
And so nobody thinks about it. But the thing is now, I know that they still test in schools, right? I know.
They still test in schools, yes.
And there's a reason.
In fact, that's how they found Alex's hearing difficulty.
Yeah.
when he
And
was
the
in
reason they
school.
do that, because it's important, because you're going to have a hard time in school if you're not being able to hear the teacher.
Exactly.
Hearing is one of the most important components to learning. If you suffer from hearing, then it's going to be hard for you to learn.
We couldn't speak if we didn't hear.
Exactly.
Correct.
You find that people are mute can't speak,
Right.
and they can't speak because they never got the chance to
Yeah.
hear.
Because the way we correct our speech is you say it and I say it and just no, that's not right. Let me change the way you say it. Then you hear the way you say it, and that's how you learn
Right.
to pronounce the words the way we're pronouncing it now.
Yeah, I mean, that's why people have accents, because they grow up within that area and they're hearing that. They hear those accents and they adopt the same way.
Right,
You know?
because the teacher taught you to speak that way, right?
Right, but if you didn't hear, you couldn't speak at all.
Right.
Right.
So it's very extremely important. That's why you children should. You get many children come in?
We do, but
Infants at all?
not infants. The infants are a little bit too small for us to work with. A 3, 4, 5-year-old. Once you're in school and they can take some verbal instructions, we can take them.
Uh-huh.
Almost every year maybe once every couple of years, we get a child coming in from failing a school screening, and we need to, look into it. And the good news is sometimes it's just something as simple as wax, but the school was able to catch it because he wasn't raising his hand the right way.
Right, yes. And and it's fortunate they do catch them, because we have to go through a whole system. They're just gonna get bad marks, not wanna be there.
Right,
Mm.
right,
It
right,
can change your whole life.
right, right. So
Yeah.
Alex has an experience. So Alex has actually worn hearing aids since the first grade.
Yep.
And he was caught in the school screening. And as a parent of a child with hearing problems, for about 6 to 8 months, you do a lot of soul searching, trying to find out what is it that we did wrong? How
Well,
did this
yeah,
happen?
you feel it's your fault, and it's not. I
You,
mean,
you take some responsibility for it because
Yeah.
he's just a young child lad, and you don't recognize it because it's not like he couldn't hear. Okay, it's just that his hearing wasn't as acute as a person with normal.
right,
hearing
but, I
is.
mean, it's just the way things developed.
Mhm.
I mean, we help to create the children with two parents, but we don't have anything to do. Nature takes it from there, and if something goes wrong,
Yeah, we were never able to identify the cause of it. It's just
yeah,
It just happened.
Yeah, there's no way you can.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think that if they knew why some children were born blind or born deaf, they'd be able to stop it.
Hmm.
So nobody knows why certain things don't take place. I think someday they will,
Right.
but we don't as of yet.
Yeah. And so my parents, they decided to get me hearing aids when I was in the first grade. And I was very fortunate growing up through school. I didn't have any problems. The kids didn't make fun of me. Everyone was very supportive of me. And that was really great. I'm really grateful for that. And then when I see adults that come into our office, sometimes they don't always take care of themselves as well as they could be. So I encourage people out there to take care of yourselves. Get your hearing checked, get your physicals every year, get your teeth checked.
Right.
Take care of yourself, because life is too short, to just
Well,
not take care of yourself.
These bodies do a lot of different things.
Mhm.
It's quite a system
Right.
when you think about it. We don't think twice about servicing our vehicle, having the oil changed and tune-ups and things like that. Well, your body is your main vehicle. Without that, you weren't around anymore.
Mhm.
Right.
But
Right.
Alex, now when you first got hearing aids, they weren't as invisible as they are today, right?
Correct. They were quite a bit more visible. than-
Especially on a small child.
Yeah. So I had the ones that filled up the ears. So most people, when they looked at me, they could tell that I was wearing hearing aids.
Right.
Today, I have so many people that come to our office, and they're like, "Oh, you're wearing hearing aids?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah. You want to see them?" And they're like, "Oh my goodness, I didn't even notice." And so many people think that when people get old, that's when they should wear hearing aids, or only old people wear hearing aids. And it's just simply not true. When you have a hearing problem, then you correct it and you use hearing aids, and it makes your life better. Hearing aids help me become my full self. They help me reach my potential.
Yeah, it's no different than having to wear glasses as a child.
Exactly.
I mean, your eyes weren't 20/20 for some reason. I think in the 5th or 6th grade when I started wearing them.
Mhm.
Now I wear contacts, but. So, I mean, it's nothing to be embarrassed about,
No.
nothing to be ashamed of.
No.
Just, that's what happened. Some people are born to be great ball players, but we all aren't.
Actually, with the new cell phones and the Bluetooth devices, I get people walking down the mall talking to themselves with these things sticking out of their ears.
Yeah.
They don't seem to mind, right?
I know, that's become fashionable, really.
You know what I mean? Those little Bluetooth things sticking out of their ear and they're talking on their cell
That's
phone.
a good point, though. I'm glad you brought that up. Are you finding that because of these, the Bluetooths and the telephones in the ear and all, is it causing more hearing problems?
Yes. I mean, the concerts and the headphones, Because one of the causes of hearing loss is hearing too loud a sound, okay? You know, you were a veteran of the World War II, so explosions and
Well,
gunfire.
not quite, a little later.
A little later, Korea, something, Korea,
Vietnam.
Vietnam, yeah. And so with those, a lot of the veterans came back and they had problems with their hearing because they were
Yeah.
exposed to bombs and gunfire and what have you. And so here today, many of the little young children are wearing the iPods and the headphones and everything. And we have a very simple rule of thumb. If you're in the gym and you can hear the next guy's iPod,
It's too loud.
it's too loud. It's too loud. It's too loud. And sometimes you're driving down the road and you hear the car go by and you can hear all the radio going off.
I can hear them in my office, in my house, and I'm over 100 feet away from the road.
It's too loud.
Much too loud. Especially they have the bass, the heavy bass.
It doesn't matter. It just damages your
Right.
hearing. And once it's damaged, it doesn't recover. You're only giving one set, and each year that goes by gets worse and worse and worse.
Now I know if you plug earphones into your phone, or a lot of or any kind of player,
Mhm.
it'll come up on the screen if you try to go too loud.
I think that's in the
Gives-
newer devices probably.
Yeah, and it's on mine,
Mhm.
my phone. It'll say, going louder can damage your ears.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good.
So it tells you, then if you want to go louder, you've got to say okay. I think that's probably put in there because the manufacturers didn't want to get sued.
Avoid the liability of someone coming in later and say, hey, the reason why I have hearing problems is because your device had caused
Yes,
things being too
I'm
loud.
going to sue you. I'm going to sue the manufacturer because they let me put it louder.
Mm.
No one has responsibility today. Blame it on the manufacturer.
Right, right.
But you are seeing people coming. I know you go to some of those concerts. God, it's so loud. I don't know how the people in they got to be wearing earplugs in the band.
Yeah, the band members usually wear earplugs.
Yeah, I imagine they have to.
Yeah.
God, so when you're even out way back in the audience, they're blasting.
So there are a bunch of rock and roll guys who have hearing problems now.
Yeah.
And they're trying to send the message out to protect your hearing, especially when you're out in those loud, noisy concerts.
Yeah. And also what those loud, noisy environments can do is bring ringing in the ears, and that's a big problem out there too.
Yeah, what do they call it?
Tinnitus,
Tinnitus.
right.
Yeah, where you get the constant ringing. Crickets.
It can come in many forms. People hear roaring, hissing, wind, generator sounds. There's so many sounds that people hear. It's all defined as a ringing in the ears or a phantom noise that you hear.
And that can be constant day and night, and especially at night if you're trying to go to sleep.
Hmm.
So that can be very irritating. And is there anything you can do with that?
There's more we can do today than we could 20,
Uh-huh.
25 years ago, okay? But the interesting thing is oftentimes if a person is having that ringing and we amplify them, that ringing goes into the background,
Ah,
oftentimes.
Yeah, if that person has hearing loss and ringing in the ears, there's some rate of success of managing that sound to help make it go in the background
Yeah.
more.
So it fades into the background. It's not quite on the forefront of their mind as much.
It doesn't cure it, doesn't make it go away,
right.
but we can help make it more manageable.
Yeah, so it doesn't go away, but you don't notice it.
Yeah,
You notice it less.
notice
Right.
it less.
Yeah.
I know, I remember when I was a kid and you had an old man with a hearing aid. I remember when they had the
The
horn.
horns, yeah.
Yeah. But they would have a big box in the front of
Microphone.
them with the wires going
Wires
up
going
your
up to the ear,
and
and
a-
a battery pack
and a battery pack
with
and a
like
volume
size
control.
C and D batteries in it.
Yeah, and a volume control.
Oh, the volume control, yeah.
Today, you could hearing aids that you adjust by a computer. I shouldn't say online, but
Wirelessly, we can
wireless.
wirelessly connect to
yeah,
the
wirelessly
hearing aid.
connect, and then you take the computer and adjust them in the computer.
Yes, yes. It's
So you
quite
can-
fascinating now,
Yeah,
today in 2018 compared to 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
yeah. So you can actually adjust to every individual now.
Yes, we customize the fitting for every individual.
Yeah.
Whether it's size, model, shape, everything is customized, and even their hearing frequencies is customized for them. So that's one of the things that we
So
separate ourselves from.
once they're
a lot of
fitted, they don't have to think about, like, they're gonna adjust the volume or anything like that. It's already done. It's all set to go. And it's just a matter of putting them in.
Yeah, for the most part, like the newest hearing aids that are available, they do millions of calculations every second. They're constantly
amazing.
scanning your environment and saying, oh, is this background noise? Yes, let me turn it down. Oh, this sounds like speech. I think the person wants to focus on this. Let's turn that up a little bit. So the devices are so advanced. They do all the work for
They're
you.
smart devices.
They're very, very
That
smart.
is amazing when you think about it. I mean, if you go back just a few years, you really had no control. It was whatever was there was there. But now you say, boy, it can adjust, get rid of the background noise, or and so
So-
your ear don't get as damaged as much. It'll turn down.
Mhm.
So we found that for people to be successful hearing aid users and hearing aid wearers, there's really a three-legged stool. And you need all three to come together to support a person who's having hearing difficulties. Is there a phone call coming?
No, I see the phone waiting, but we have a sign that tells me if I have a call.
Oh, okay.
But people might be calling just to
Okay.
talking to Aaron.
So
They
the
might be calling
three-legged
to get your
stool.
address.
So the three-legged stool, first is the professional that you work with. It's very important that they be properly trained and know how and experienced to be able to be expertly try to adjust the hearing aid for your specific needs, okay? The second component is what we call technology, and Alex just talked a little bit about how the technology today is very, very sophisticated, but just because it's sophisticated doesn't mean you'll be able to benefit from it. You need the services of a professional to help you make those adjustments.
Right.
But the third and most critical component of a three-legged stool is the individual themselves.
Uh-huh.
The individual has to be committed and has to want to hear better.
Yeah, when you go through the test, you have to be very attentive,
Yes,
because you can only go by what the person does. When
that's right, that's
they
right.
raise their hand, then you know.
Right,
If they don't, well,
Yeah.
so if they're not attentive
Yeah.
and really serious about this hearing test,
right,
you're not gonna be able to help them,
right.
because you're not gonna
Right.
get accurate information.
And so we try to share that if you come into our office, we'll do everything we can to help you hear better. But that's why the individual is the most important, because they need to take the action. They need to be motivated to do something. The best technology and the best professional world, if the individual is not motivated,
It
or
won't
they're
work.
in denial, they're in denial.
Yeah.
And I like to say that denial is not a river in Egypt.
You're right.
It's self-denial.
By the way, 508-266-0990. If you have any questions for either Peter or Alex, now's the time to call. Don't do what every week someone calls at 5 minutes too late. You can't take the call. You gotta call now, and the line's wide open, no one's on, so here's a chance to get in. Now I lost my train of thought.
Well, I was just talking about the three-legged stool. The most
Yes.
important person is the individual themselves.
What I wanted to talk about, what impressed me the most is your camera you have now.
Ear camera.
You actually go into the ear canal,
Yep.
and I saw my eardrum on the screen.
For the first time in your
Yeah, I
life.
never saw my eardrum before. I mean, when you think about it, you know, if you went to the doctor before, and, oh, I went today, the doctor looked at my ears, but, you know, they're looking with a light, how much are you gonna see?
Yeah.
Yeah, when we project a person's ear onto the TV screen, it's great because that person is confident and they believe, like, when you look in there and you say, there's no wax,
Yeah,
they can see it for themselves. There's
Yeah.
no wax in there. It's
well, if there
really,
is wax
Or if
in there,
it's packed with wax,
Yeah.
it's packed with wax, and then they say, "Oh, gee, it's packed with wax." Yeah.
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 It's
And then you
educational.
recommend them to go to a doctor to get the wax removed, right?
Sure. If we can't do it, we make that recommendation. Yeah. We do the easy ones.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you really have to go to a special, an ENT,
Yes. If it's
to get that-
impacted really hard, yes.
yeah, because it can be quite difficult.
So that's the other thing. Oftentimes, people could be having hearing challenges, and it could be something as simple as wax.
Right,
And every year, there's probably half a dozen people that come in, and we take the wax out, and boom, they're in good shape.
I don't think a lot of people realize that the wax is very important.
Wax is important.
Yeah, it really protects your ear.
Yeah, so wax, what it does is it helps clean your ear, it collects dust and anything that might fly.
Pollution.
Yeah, pollution.
Yeah.
It collects it and then it spirals out and then it falls out of your ear.
Comes
Yep.
out as a ball of wax.
And
Right.
it keeps bugs out of your ears too when you're
Right.
sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cockroaches won't come in and take up
Right.
residence in here, or spiders and stuff. But
Yeah.
you know, I've seen some bugs go in and they get caught in the wax, and they can't come out, and then they just expire in there. And
Oh,
then you
my
gotta
God.
go.
People don't realize you got a bug in your ear. Yeah, that's
Oh.
good.
That's a good one. Got a bug in my ear.
Yeah. But, yeah, the thing is, I mean, you've seen some pretty strange things too, right? You were telling
Yeah, we
about
do.
the,
We see very strange
the
things.
lady who had the button battery,
The button battery was stuck in there. Yeah.
yeah, up against her eardrum.
Up against the eardrum. Yeah. Yeah. So.
I mean, if that hadn't come out, that could have done some serious damage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not good. Anytime you have a foreign object in your ear, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
not good. And, you know, she,
But
she
you
was a
find
patient
this
of mine. She
because
was a
you got
patient of
your-
mine. And she came in and says, gee, can you take a look at my ear? I'm feeling a little bit funny in here. And I look inside. And this flash of light just flashes back at me. So, oh, because the battery is shiny and it's a little tiny one. I said, oh, I don't know what it is. I said, there's something flashing back at me. And it's not until I look very close. I said, I think that's a battery in there. And she said, I was in bed last night and I took my hearing aid out. And then I thought I lost it in bed or off the bed, and then I just put a new one in. I didn't realize it ended up in my ear, she said.
Oh, my God.
So that's a short story. Long story, sent her to a primary care physician who had looked at her already, okay? And then when I have a ability to print a picture out, and we gave her the picture to bring in there, and they said, oh, you know that little thing, oh, yeah, we do, oh, I think we do see it. You better go to emergency in Framingham to take it out. And
Yeah, because that could be quite dangerous poking
Yeah.
in there.
yeah, it's right up against the eardrum, so it was,
I think
nasty.
what they say is don't put anything bigger in your ear than your elbow.
right, that's right here.
Because it can do damage.
Yes, it's,
And people like to use Q-tips.
yeah, Q-tips.
It's
That's
not
not
a good
good.
idea.
Not a good idea.
We don't usually recommend Q-tips.
Right. Now, if you clean your ears, what's the best way? Hot water?
I'd say the best way is let your ears clean themselves naturally, because over time the wax should come out. But
Yeah.
occasionally people, the wax doesn't come out of their ears, so then that's when a professional should help you
You
remove
should
it.
go to, go to
You
a
should go to a professional, yeah.
professional,
Yeah.
yes. An ENT,
The other problem that a Q-tip can do is by going in and you could actually push it in further,
yeah, and compact it in.
compact it. But the other thing it does actually will remove wax out of your ear, and now you get itchy ears, because the wax acts as an anti-itching agent. It's like a lubricant
Oh.
in there. But when you remove the lubricant, the ear becomes dry, and when it becomes dry, then it gets itchy. People come, oh, my ear is so itchy, and we have to reintroduce another
Oh, so-
agent in there to try to soften up the,
There's a reason
canal.
not to take the wax
That's
out.
the reason
Just
not
leave
to
it
take the wax.
alone and let
Yeah,
nature
leave it.
take its course.
let nature take its course, yeah.
And if you do have a problem, you feel you do, then have a professional look at
Go
it.
see a
have the doctor
professional,
Look at
yes.
it and see, and that's an ENT. Your primary care is not really that good at it because they're not trained in it.
Some of them are, some of them aren't. And in today's healthcare system, you have to go back through your ENT to even, go back through your primary care to go to an
Right, you
ENT.
gotta go through your primary
Yeah,
care.
they call them the gatekeeper, who
Yes.
will then
Yeah,
refer
that's
you to an
because the
ENT.
insurance companies don't want to make sure that you really need to go there.
Oh, okay.
They don't want to pay for a specialist unless you really need it.
Right.
But, yes, you must, when you have people come in that really didn't think they had a problem, did they react they react quite as shocked after and say, wow, I'm hearing things I never heard? You
I
find
think I'm
that?
thinking of a gentleman that came in maybe about 3 months ago, and his wife actually called up to make the appointment for him. And I said, would you be able to accompany him? And she said, yeah. I said, if I don't go, he might not show up in your office.
Isn't it the way it always is? The wife has to force them in.
So he came in, we tested him, and we said, you got a hearing problem. And we hung the hearing aids on his ears, and like his eyes just lit up. Just lit up and said, wow, this is fantastic. And we talked to him face to face. Then we turn around and we get behind him, we talk to him. 10, 12 feet from the rear, and he's picking up everything. And his wife, her jaw is down to her knees because she can't believe this, that he's hearing all these things. But he was probably what, I wouldn't say he didn't know he didn't have a hearing problem, but he resisted doing something, and he never realized how good it could be. He said, I never thought I could hear like this again. This is like fantastic. And we hadn't even fully restored him. I mean, we just demoed something, and he was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. Where have you been all my life?
Yeah, now, when you fit someone, they don't walk in and walk out with what they're gonna have forever.
Right. When we fit somebody, it's really a process of
Right.
working with that person, making sure that that's the right solution for them. We really customize it for that person, and it takes time. Treating hearing loss is a journey. It's not a destination. Doesn't just because you buy a set of devices doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're going to be hearing well. It takes time for your brain to adjust, for us to make adjustments on the hearing aids themselves, and it takes time. It's a journey that you'll be embarking on and continuing through for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I bring that up because you see advertised on TV in the infomercials, this hearing thing that you can get, and you just hook it into your ear and you'll hear it much better. And there's another one now with comes with the rechargeables, and they're not really fitted to the person. You order them, it's a one size fits all, and that's not really the good way to go, is it?
It's not the way that I would want to treat my mother.
Yeah, I mean, you're actually customizing the hearing aid to that one individual person. And
Yes.
there's so many different kinds of hearing aids too.
Mhm.
There are different kinds, styles, models,
Right.
and it's important that it be done properly and professionally. But more importantly is that we often will demonstrate the hearing aid right in the office and let someone take it home and have a test drive on it
Yeah,
for a week or two. Because it's a major commitment, and we want you to be comfortable that this is the direction you want to go.
Right.
And that's the big difference that separates us from many of the other
that's what if you
practices.
try to, it kind of goes in back of the ear and I'm not comfortable with it, I don't like it, then you might be able to fit them something that goes right into the ear canal.
Exactly.
Or even, they have them on glasses.
They do, but that's something that was back in the 50s and 60s. Because the glasses, the tempos get to be very big.
Yes.
And now everyone's using these wire tempos. So
Right.
I wouldn't say that a lot of people have them on glasses now.
Right.
But primarily, it's either behind the ear or in the ear. Those are the two main places where we can put the hearing aids.
Now, they have the rechargeable,
Yes, they have
those are
rechargeable
available
ones.
too, right?
Yep.
So you don't have to worry about the button batteries anymore.
Right. You just put them into a charger overnight, and
Yeah.
You
How
know-
long do they last? I mean, those are lithium batteries, I imagine?
they're the lithium batteries. I think they come with either 3 or 5 year warranty for the batteries.
Oh, so they're good for 3 to 5 years?
Right.
Yeah. Most people that will get a set of hearing aids, they'll end up wearing them for about 4 to 6 years on average. There are people that wear them much longer than that. If they take care of them, we've seen some really old hearing aids at our office because we try to take very good care of them. But over time, what people realize is hearing aids don't restore your hearing back to normal. So they're always trying to get the best hearing that they can. And so after a few years of wearing a set of hearing aids, patients will come in and they'll ask, hey Alex, what's new? Because they're always looking for better hearing.
Uh-huh.
And so we let them try the new technology, and a lot of the times patients are like, these are great, I want to upgrade. And that's
Well,
what we're trying to do is
Is the hearing similar to your sight? I know, I examined at least
Right.
minimum once a year. I go every 6 months actually, but, because your eyes do go out of focus, they get weaker as you get older. That happens to hearing as well, right?
as you get older, typically your hearing doesn't get better.
Right, it could get weaker,
It could get worse.
so you've got to keep adjusting. So it's not a bad idea to get checked, go in once a year and just get checked out. Even though if you're not going to replace your hearing aids, at least get checked out.
Yeah, even if you don't wear hearing aids, even
Yep.
if you're not having trouble with your hearing, just get it checked.
Get it checked, and who knows, what you might find.
Hmm.
As we did say, that could lead to other things, and, the hearing loss might be a sign that you got something else wrong.
Yeah, occasionally that hearing loss can be due to something a lot worse. So.
Yeah, and that's what you find. That's why you go. That's why, like, you go to the dentist. He's not just checking your teeth. He's checking your overall health in some ways.
Mm.
Yeah, he's checking for cavities, checking for cracks, checking for how the gum is doing.
Yeah.
The eye doctor checks your, what's it, the retina. They got all kinds of things that look inside, measure the thickness of cornea, measure all the liquids inside. So
Yeah, they can tell if there's something.
there's a lot of things that they're checking.
If you got something out of balance,
Yeah,
it might get caught. You can catch it
Exactly.
on that.
exactly. And I just want to get back on Alex's comment about the process and the journey. I mean, Better Hearing is a service. And unfortunately, oftentimes on television, it's presented as a product. And that's the difference
Yes.
between a journey versus a destination.
Right.
A destination, you get a product, you're done. You don't need to do anything more. But
Right.
hearing changes and moves and up and down and everything like that. And your environment changes.
Yep.
And so that's why it's a journey. And as professionals, we accompany you along this journey so that we can help make adjustments and help you navigate the road to better hearing as opposed to a destination. Too many people, even that come to our office, they think they're done when they get the hearing aid. And in truth, it's just the beginning.
Yes.
Sort of like I went to a graduation and they call it commencement, and the kids graduating, they think, oh, we're done, we're graduating, and no, they call it commencement. You're just beginning.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. If you get hearing aids, it's not the end, it's the beginning. It's the
Right.
beginning of your journey to better hearing.
Yeah, and so it's not something you go in and I'm over and never come back again.
No, no. In fact, we see people 2 weeks later, a month later, 3 months later, 6 months, 12 months, and then thereafter, every 6 months you come back. And you come back, we check your ears, we check the hearing aids, we ask you questions, how things are going, and then we make little minor tweaks and adjustments because your living environment might different. So
Yeah.
I treated a woman, for 3 years, she was living at home, and then after 3 years, she decided to move into one of these independent living facilities. And her eating situation now was no longer the same as when she was in her home. And so now her needs were different, and she was now interacting with a lot more people. And so we had to make some tweaks and adjustments
Yeah,
for
where
that.
she's eating in a dining hall.
A dining hall, more
and you got
people
a lot of noise
around,
going on,
noise.
dishes clattering, people talking.
all those things, all those things.
Yeah, so you really have to adjust.
So
it,
we,
but-
we would need to make an adjustment. So even today, a woman came in, and her hearing aids were like whistling at her, okay?
Oh.
And she said, it just happened this week, and someone was driving her to Framingham, and they were whistling, and so she said she was very embarrassed, but they were also, because of the whistling, it interfered with her ability to hear. And then when she came in, I took everything apart, and the hearing aids had a little bit blockage of wax, but she also had wax in the ears. So I cleaned it up, I changed the tips, I used a different set of tips, and now she's, oh, this is so much better, it sounds much louder, okay? Because these are little types of adjustments we make along the road based on your feedback to us.
Okay. If
So
you
this
do
happens
have-
every day.
If you do have hearing aids, then it's advisable to clean the tips, right?
You should clean them. You should,
Yep.
every night you should look at them, make sure the wax doesn't
Use
get in
an
and block them.
alcohol
Alcohol
swab or something like that to clean them off. Because, yeah, you're gonna get wax, and you get wax in your ears, so it's gonna
Yeah,
eventually hit
it's,
the
it's like a
hearing aid.
magnet for wax. If you can think of putting something in your, let it stay for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, it's just a magnet
Yeah.
for wax. It's just a magnet.
Yeah, I mean, so many things that, people, we talked about, we're gonna talk an hour, but there's so many things to know about hearing aids and about hearing disabilities that people don't realize.
Yeah, people just don't realize what they're up against oftentimes. They think, oh, I just buy a hearing aid and boom, stick it in and I'm done. And that's just the beginning. I like that graduation commencement.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. No,
analogy.
you're right, I mean, like I said, they advertise them on TV. Oh, you can get these hearing aids, probably, I don't know what the prices are, but,
But it doesn't
and-
matter. What I'm trying to say, it's a service and not a product.
right.
It's a journey and not a
You're
destination. And
doing
that's the
yourself
key
a
message.
disservice just buying something like that.
Well, we see people coming in because once they get them, they come in and we can't even adjust those things because they're so rudimentary. I can't do anything with it. And they feel like they've wasted their money because sometimes it lasts a week, a month, 6 months, a year, and they say, oh, gee, I spent X dollars with it, but they're no good to me anymore.
Right. Now, your ears have a lot to do with your balance. Being able to stay,
Yes.
for us to, because we walk erect.
Right, right.
If you got a problem with your hearing aid, could that have an effect on your balance? Can it cause you some vertigo or?
Well, I think there's a statistic about older Americans are more likely to have falls when they have hearing loss, untreated hearing loss.
Right.
So,
In fact, that Johns Hopkins study came out and said you have 3 times more likely to have slips and falls if you have uncorrected hearing loss versus someone
Because it
normal hearing
affects your balance.
It affects your balance. So it's
Wow,
3 to
see-
5 times more likely.
Here's
And that's the
another thing.
worst thing. It's that if you're at age, 60, 70, 80, you're so afraid you're going to fall. That's, in fact, you're okay. And once you take that fall, things change.
Well, your whole life can change. I mean,
Things change.
I have a friend that fell back New Year's Eve, and she hasn't been the same since. Same age as I am.
Gentleman came in today and he was wearing a back brace, and the daughter told me he had just fallen, and they went through rehab, and then
Yep.
they lost his hearing aids, and now he's in to replace them, and it's because of that slip and fall. And that's
Yeah.
a trigger that starts all these other things that go on.
See, a lot of people realize that we're not that, I think we're more familiar today than we have been in the past with our bodies, but we got more education on it. But a lot of people don't realize that factor, that your balance is right there in your ears, in that inner ear.
Yeah. And like you said, hearing is one of 5 senses that you have. And if
Yeah.
you start losing one of those senses, that really cuts down on your ability to manage the environment around you.
It throws you out of whack. Yeah, it's like they say, a blind person has much better hearing. I don't know if you've ever heard that blind people can hear better than, a little more better hearing than a sighted person.
Right.
And because what that sense is doing is trying to pick up for the lack of one of them.
yeah, it has to compensate for the lack of vision. So,
Right,
Yeah.
In fact, Helen Keller
yes,
was deaf, dumb, and blind.
yes.
And when she was asked of whether being blind and being hearing impaired, which was worse, and she said not hearing was worse than not seeing.
Well, Anne Sullivan had to teach her how to talk,
Right, right,
and she couldn't hear.
right, right.
She had to
And-
teach her
and-
by,
And when they asked her why she thought hearing was more important than vision, and she said, my eyes connect me to things.
yeah,
My hearing connect me to people. And she says it's important to be connected to people more than things, because
Yeah.
that's how you develop social communications and the enjoyment of people around you. And that's from Helen Keller, who I would say would be the expert about eyes and ears.
oh, I know, I mean, she wasn't born that way either,
She wasn't born that way? I
No,
thought she was born that way.
got it from, scarlet fever or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
But they took away all 3 of,
Yeah.
all 3 of the senses. Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
and they thought she would never be able to do anything, and that's why she's so famous, and she was able to speak after. It was Anne Sullivan who was brought in to help her,
Yeah, from one of the schools here, right?
yes, in the Boston
Yeah,
area,
one of the schools in Boston area.
and he actually helped her out. Well, if you want to talk about hearing in the Boston area, Alexander Bell,
Alexander Graham Bell,
Yeah.
the inventor of the telephone,
yeah.
was
But what
trying to
he-
build a hearing aid for his mother, and he
Exactly.
invented
He
the
was
telephone.
trying to build a hearing aid and invented a telephone. And where would we be without everybody having a personal phone in their pocket all day now? We would have never had that.
Alexander Graham Bell,
Isn't that
Famous
right here
forefather.
in Boston?
famous forefather of hearing aids.
Yep, yeah. And he actually worked for a school that taught the deaf.
Okay. That's
So, I
great,
mean,
that's
And
great.
it's been a problem that's been going on for years. I mean, you got the Perkins School out here in Lancaster.
Right, right.
And, because, I mean, you really inhibit a person by taking away any one of their senses.
Any sense would be inhibited.
Yeah.
But hearing is an
but
important
hearing
sense.
is really extreme, and, I mean,
Yeah.
it's actually, and it's a defense as well, because you don't know when you can't hear danger coming.
Yes, yes.
Because people don't realize if they got a hearing problem, they don't do anything about it, you could end up getting hit by a car, You could get hit by something falling. You don't hear it. You don't hear.
That's the extreme, but I'll tell you, I remember working with a woman who was a secretary, and I fitted her hearing aids, and she would walk down the hallway, and now she'd be aware, when she goes by the mailroom, all the things that's going on in the mailroom. And she said before, she just walked by, she know that
never
we're the
hear it.
mailroom, but she
Yeah.
didn't hear it. And now she could hear people approaching her from the rear.
Yeah.
And she said, that is such an important thing for me, because oftentimes as I'm working, I'm intently typing a letter, someone would get up behind me, and they'd be there for like 2 minutes, then they'll tap me on the shoulder, oh, scared the-
It startles the hell out of you.
and so now I can actually hear them coming out, say,
Yeah.
oh, excuse me, just one moment, I'll be right with you. And all of it just made her life that much easier, because she could hear footsteps approaching her, as opposed to someone just tapping her on the shoulder and just scaring the living daylights out of
Well, you
her.
know, I was saying you get hit by a car. You know that one of the problems with electric cars, you can't hear them coming.
They're quiet.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So there was talk about making it mandatory that they make a noise.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
You're actually right, because we react to the noise. If we
Yeah.
don't hear that noise, you step on the street and bang.
Yeah, and you know it was there. You know, you might look, and then all of a sudden they come around the corner, but you don't hear them.
Yeah, yeah.
I think more common is when somebody has a hearing problem or a hearing loss, the whole family has a hearing problem. And that person's relationships become strained because people have difficulty communicating with someone that has a hearing loss that's untreated.
Yep.
They'll have to repeat
We
themselves.
repeat themselves, we raise our voice, and sometimes you think we're yelling at them. You say, you don't have to yell at me. I'm not yelling at you. I'm trying to talk to you, but you can't hear me when I talk to you. No, you're yelling at me, and it gets down a downward spiral. But you're right.
Yeah.
So a person who has a hearing loss, which we define as unable to hear soft sounds, creates a hearing communication problem for the family. And they don't even think about that, because a lot of the spouses, they put up with it, but there's a limit to what they put up with.
Yeah, and after a while, I guess he doesn't listen to me anymore. He doesn't
Mm-hmm.
hear me anymore.
Yeah. Or the television up so loud, I can't stand it, I can't go to sleep at night.
Oh yeah, I mean, actually, even during the day, if the television is loud in the house,
Yeah, it
it's
really
gonna interrupt-
upsets you.
It bothers everybody. You're not in the same room, and you hear this TV blast, and it's very irritating.
Mhm.
But here again, they don't even realize it because they're hearing impaired somewhat. To them, it's not that loud.
Right.
It's not loud at all. In
Yeah.
fact, I remember one gentleman coming back, 2 weeks later, and he said, how's things going? He goes, oh, everything's the same. I said, what do you mean? He said, I hear everybody the same. And the daughter said, Dad, I haven't been screaming at you the last 2 weeks. I've been talking to normal. He says, really? I heard you the same with the hearing aids and without them. He said, without them, I was screaming at you, and now I'm able to have a normal conversation. Says, oh, I guess they are working. So
Yeah.
there are people that don't even realize that. People
Yeah.
aren't even speaking loud to them, because all they hear is what they hear, and what they hear is what they know. They don't even know how to separate that the person that's talking to them has now actually doesn't have to speak as loud to compensate for them.
Yeah, and they never realized it.
They never realize it.
Yeah,
They never realize
yeah,
it.
we're so, like anything else, you adapt.
Mhm.
We can adapt to anything. We're just
Right.
adaptable creatures.
You know, if you hurt your leg or something like that, you might develop a limp.
Right,
And first thing you know, that's the way you walk all the time. You never think of it, and you don't even think about it.
right, right.
You know, it's like that with any part of your body.
So we do live seminars, and there'll be like 5, 10, 15, 20 people in the audience. And I'll go through the whole seminar, and everybody's laughing and smiling. And at the end of the seminar, if I have like 10 or 20 people, there'll always be one person come up and tell me that they have a hearing problem. And they've had a hearing problem since they were a child. Or my left ear doesn't work, or this. But when I'm engaged in my conversation with them, I have no idea that they can't hear me. How would I know? They're laughing and smiling like everybody else. But only when she gives me a personal conversation does she share with me what's going on with her.
Yeah, you told me a
Because-
story about someone that they would follow the rest of the crowd,
Yes, yes, yes.
so that you didn't know they had a problem because if the rest of the crowd was laughing, they laughed. If the rest of the crowd frowned, they frowned.
Right, right.
So they weren't hearing anything, but they were just following the crowd, you might say.
They have this smile and nod, So if I
Yeah.
smile and nod like this, then you have no idea if I heard you or not. Because it's really difficult to ask you, what was that again, Harry? Can you say that again? Can you
Yeah.
speak louder? I might ask you once. I might ask you twice. But, you know, 2 strikes, I'm not going to go for that 3rd strike. I'm just going to recede. Okay? So I remember working with a school teacher once. Okay, she was in the English department. And one Monday morning, the teacher shares, the head of the department comes in and shares a story with her. And she didn't really hear it, but she didn't think it was important. So she said, oh, isn't that nice? Well, the head of the department looked at her really strange. He walked away, and then she realized at that time she had said something inappropriate. So she went and asked some of her colleagues, and what was that? They said, he was telling you his daughter got into an automobile accident over the weekend.
Oh, my, oh. See, you can
And
really
like the next
embarrass
week, she was
yourself.
in to see me, and she says, I need to do something, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
what an embarrassing
and-
moment to put yourself in.
That's only half the story, because the other half of the story is that she had been to other major institutions twice in the last 10 years, and they told her nothing could be done.
Oh,
And what I did was I decided to give her a demonstration model, and when she heard it, she said, wow, where have you been all my life, you know? This is fantastic, you know? And
what are these places that he went to that they couldn't do anything?
I'm not going to
No, I don't,
say
you know, I
anything.
don't, you put
But
that
for
in
whatever
context.
reason, you know,
Yeah, they didn't
I
try
maybe
very
I
hard.
met her like in the mid 2000s, so we're spinning back another 5 into the 90s.
Maybe
So
the technology wasn't there.
I don't know what it was. Maybe by the time she got to see me, she was worse than she was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But she knew that she had a problem. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is why demonstrations are so important.
But you made a good point here. Even if you've been to someone in the past and they told you nothing could be done, it's probably worth checking out again.
Yeah. Unfortunately, hearing difficulty, for the longest time, everyone would say nothing can be done. And when
Yep.
a physician says that to you, he means 2 things. A, I can't give you a drug to solve it. And B, I cannot give you surgery to solve it.
Right.
The thing that they didn't say was, hey, you should check out hearing aids. But they never said that. They just said, I can't give you a pill, and I can't operate.
And
And
also at the time,
at the
there
time-
there might not have been the help available.
Yeah.
So
but-
today,
But that's been historical since like the 40s.
Well-
And unfortunately, the way they teach medicine, they just continue to teach the same.
I got
Same situation.
I got a niece, I think she's 20 years old now.
Right.
She was born with a cochlea problem.
Mm-hmm.
And her mother caught it because she started banging pots behind her and she wouldn't react. As an infant, brought it to the doctor. Oh, she's never going to hear. And the whole family went through learning sign language so we could communicate with her.
Mm-hmm.
She hears now just as well as I do. She's got
So you
hearing
get a
aids.
cochlear implant?
Nope.
Oh, no. The
Nope.
hearing aid?
Hearing aids.
Wow.
They said she would need a cochlear implant, but fortunately her parents didn't go to that extent. They tried the hearing aid first, and it worked. But the pediatrician had said, oh, she'll never hear.
Wow.
She could be, he said, in fact, his words were, she could be sitting on the runway and won't hear a plane land.
Oh, wow.
it's always worth a shot.
Yep. I mean,
Always worth a shot.
they call medicine a practice because that's what it is. They're practicing. Really,
Right, you're
they
right,
call it a
right.
practice for that reason. Because there's no clear cuts. And that's what they found with her was the hearing aid made the difference. And
Yeah.
she hears and she speaks perfect.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
She's in college now, and so, I mean,
That's a wonderful story. I didn't like the first part about the pediatrician, but I like the rest of the part.
yeah. But,
So-
I mean, that can happen.
That can happen. That can happen. I mean, everybody's human.
Yeah,
The pediatrician, the doctors, we are human.
right.
And we don't know everything.
No.
And so he may have
Sometimes
just
they
made the wrong
They
diagnosis.
just take the worst, want to give you the worst, so that at least if you give you the worst and it didn't get better, well, then you'll be happy.
Right.
If they said, well, maybe she'd probably go get her hearing aid and then didn't hear, then you're really going to be disappointed.
So I think if you're out there, I think the messages that we really have to hit home is that get your hearing checked. Get
Yes.
your hearing checked.
Yeah.
And secondly, if you have a problem, don't be afraid to do something about it. Confront the problem as opposed to hiding from it or withdrawing from it. And unfortunately, too many people hide, withdraw, or even are in denial.
Yes.
if your spouse or your friends or even your children tell you to do something, listen to them. There's a reason why they want you to. They're doing this for your own good.
But even if you think you don't have a problem,
Even if you think you have a problem.
check it out. You have
Check
your
it
teeth checked, you have your eyes checked, have your hearing checked.
That's the best message we can give.
Okay. Well, we're running out of time. Yeah, I told you the hour would fly.
Yeah, we did it without a break either.
Yeah, without a break. So you're 33 Lyman Street
In Westboro.
in Westboro. Just after, if you're coming in from Westboro Center, you go just down Lyman Street past Beaumont, and you're right after that. After
Right.
Beaumont.
And you can visit our website. Can I give my
Yeah,
website?
Sure.
It's Pro Hearing, Hearing, Health, HEALTH.com. ProHearingHealth.com. And there you see pictures of our practice. And we got some testimonials there for people that have written in.
Yep.
We got some audio testimonials. And we got some video testimonials
Yep.
of people that have
Oh.
benefited from our services.
Yeah.
And if you want to reach us, you can even send us a little email right at the website there.
Yeah.
Or you can pick up the phone and call us, 508-366-8686. That's 508-366-8686. So,
You know, it doesn't hurt to get it checked out. It's well worth it.
yes, it is.
You know, better to find out than to wait and then can't do anything about it.
I mean, even if you find out, you don't have to do anything, right? But at least now you know.
Right.
Knowing is better than walking through life like this without looking up.
Yes,
But it becomes your choice.
yes.
Once you know, it's your choice to do something positive, or your choice to withdraw, your choice to not do anything. But it always ends up your choice, which is why you, the person, the individual, is the most important person, most important, the three-legged stool we talked about.
Yes,
You can have best professionals in the world, you have the best technologists in the world, until that third person, until that individual takes action,
Makes
is
their own
motivated
commitment.
to do something,
Yep.
nothing happens.
right. Well, Peter,
Yes.
thank you for coming in.
Well, thanks for having us, Harry. Thank you for
Yes, Alex, thank you.
spending
Harry.
time with us.
And we'll be, next week, my guest is going to be Tracy, I can never say her last name. She's running for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District, and she'll be here next week. She was on last night with Gary Rosenberg, so she'll be on tomorrow night, next week with me. We'll see you next week on About the Valley.